Hello, everybody. Another episode of the Keep Going podcast. Athletes shining a light on mental health. The Ohio State is in the building. Andrew, what's going on, man? Nice being here.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm super pumped to be here.
Now, excited to have you, man, especially a holiday weekend. Jackie, where are you coming out of?
I'm in Mass right now and I'm excited to be here. I'm going to have to put my pride aside today because I am a Longhorns fan, but we can look past it for the next 30 minutes.
I like that. I like that. It's more about the people than the brand. But anytime we have a big school like Ohio State here, I got to talk about the origin story first. So tell me, how did you get here at Ohio State? Talk about young Andrew going through this process.
Yeah, so I think the journey's been something that it's been a little bit different, right? So, grew up in South Florida, played baseball my entire life. Was fortunate enough to play baseball in college at a very small school, D3, Maryville College. Um, I spent 2 years playing there, and it was unbelievable, awesome. Met some really great people. Going into my junior year, started an internship at the University of Tennessee with the strength and conditioning department. Wasn't 100% sure whether or not I wanted to go into strength and conditioning or I wanted to do baseball coaching specifically, but I kind of had a general idea that I for sure wanted to get into coaching. Um, and I fell in love with it, man. It was awesome. I met some really, really great people there. That summer was unbelievable. I was the only intern the entire summer, so I got a lot of work in that time period. I got to work with pretty much every sport they had there. And then at the end of the summer, Dan Worth, the director of strength and conditioning there, was just like, "Hey, man, listen, I know you're going back to college. I know you want to continue to play baseball, but if this is something you want to do, we're happy to have you here for the rest of the year and then just kind of see where this thing goes." It took a lot of praying and it took a lot of time with my family, but it was something that I felt I kind of wanted to start early. So I just started coaching from that point on, and I realized the Yankees weren't going to call anytime soon, so I didn't think that baseball was probably going to be the best thing for me at that time, but at the end of the day, it was unbelievable. I was able to work my way up there, did my GA there, so graduate assistant. Did another 4 years there, and it was unbelievable. The people that I was able to meet at the University of Tennessee, can't say enough great things about that. So then we fast forward now 4 years, and I get the opportunity to work at Ohio State at the end of my master's degree, and from there it's kind of the rest has been history. The people here are unbelievable. The tradition, the people, the excellence. That's kind of our motto here at Ohio State, and it really is the people here make the tradition then becomes excellence, and that's really just you can't say enough great things about Ohio State.
No, I love it, man. It's truly the underdog story is not the right word, but you're a D3 guy that all of a sudden gets to wear this logo on your chest. As a D3 guy, that fires me up. I mean, we're a D3 podcast for the most part. I do have to ask this. Obviously, Luke Wheat was a co-founder here. Jake Peterson stood up at my wedding. How did you find us? Because I look at the mutual friends, I'm like, there's got to be someone I'm missing here. So how'd you find our podcast?
Well, so obviously I played baseball with Jake, and Jake is just a gem of all gems, right? Like that dude
Amen, brother.
is
Yes.
probably the best dude you will ever meet in your life. And then obviously Luke was in Maryville at that exact same time. So I've been able to see what you guys have been doing from afar here for a little bit. But those two people, you can't say enough great things about those two guys.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We've obviously done hundreds of episodes with Luke. Jake and Ray came on, obviously Jake's brother, probably about 150 episodes now. Like it's been a long time coming. But shout out to the Peterson family. Shout out to Maryville baseball. It's awesome. Let's stay there for a second. Give me your favorite Maryville baseball memory, and I'll let you kind of run with it.
Oh man. All right, we're gonna keep it pretty PG here,
I
but
figured you would. I figured you would. Go
But
ahead.
Jake is let's stay with Jake Peterson, right? So my sophomore year we were able to play in the Dominican Republic, which was an unbelievable experience, right? Like First of all, you get a bunch of D3 dudes who, every trip in Division 3 is about a bus trip, right? Like you're not flying anywhere.
It's gritty.
Um,
It's
it's
gritty for
gritty.
sure.
It's gritty.
Yes.
So the fact that we didn't take, a boat to the Dominican Republic, I think was a really big deal, right? Like we were able to fly. That was awesome. And so, we get there, we're there for a week. And dude, it was like, we're told like, hey, listen, we're gonna be at a resort. This is gonna be 5 star. It's beautiful, great food. You're gonna be on a great beach. It's gonna be the best thing you're ever gonna do. And we get there and it was like not a resort. It was the D3 of, Dominican Republic experiences, right? Like we were completely off the beaten path. We land and the bus breaks down like halfway to the resort. So we're stranded in the middle of the Dominican Republic for like 2 hours. And like just being with the dudes on that trip was just the best thing possible, right? Like I just remember we're sitting on like this like middle of nowhere beach in the Dominican Republic. Jake Peterson's just throwing an absolute party. He's dancing with the locals. He's got everybody on the beach fired up. But man, it was awesome because obviously at the end of the day, you get to go to the Dominican Republic, you see some really great talent too, and we're playing some really fun baseball. But I think for me, that was the funnest trip for sure at Maryville, hands down.
Yeah, Jake Pearson partying with the locals checks out 100%. That makes a lot of sense. I would never see him doing anything else besides that in that situation. So, no, it's awesome to hear, man. Talk about this. Obviously, the profession right now, being in Ohio State, being able to impact athletes. What are you seeing on the mental health, mental performance side when you're in the trenches with your guys and your girls, for that matter, too, if you have any girl athletes as well?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. So I think just to preface this, I think at Ohio State we're extremely blessed that we have an entire sport performance department. I think a lot of people, they see college athletics as, there's a head coach, the assistant coaches, and then obviously there may be 36 guys, gals on a team, but there is an entire performance department, performance team working behind the scenes. And I think that those people can't be understated enough. So, obviously, me as the strength and conditioning coach. There's an athletic trainer, there is a sports psychologist, there is a sport dietitian. There may even be a mental performance coach for depending on the team, but I think there's a lot of people working behind the scenes, and I think that the biggest one that a lot of people probably don't understand is that sports psychologist. So anything I say here today, I don't think I can give enough credit to those guys and girls over in the sports psychology department, but for me, what we'll see with athletes here coming in is there is a really high degree of expectations that come with playing at Ohio State. I think a lot of people they look at Ohio State football and they're like, yeah, it's the prominent source of college athletics, right? It is the mecca for some people. But those expectations go down from everybody from football, soccer, lacrosse, baseball, even all the way down to fencing and pistol and rifle. So everybody has those same expectations, and it takes a really, really gritty kid to come in here and live up to that, and then obviously be able to handle that. But for me, I think the team that you have around you when you come here, it really is to try and help you succeed to the best of our ability. So I think for me, those sports psychology individuals are, top notch in what they do here.
Yeah, I can't speak more highly on sports psychologists. My wife went through it at Stony Brook. Obviously, Jackie's girlfriend as well went through some of that stuff at both the schools she attended. Jackie, I know that's sitting home for you. I'll go to you real quick.
Yeah, I always ask, and I'm curious. It seems like obviously I do respect Ohio State, so I can appreciate what you guys do over there. But I always ask coaches this at a high level because obviously you're somebody that all these athletes are looking to for energy and help and guidance. So I'm curious as to what you do in your routine throughout your week to make sure that you're also taking care of yourself so you can provide that for the student athletes.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, one of the things we're always going to tell these athletes is don't just be tied into your sport and what you do. We have to find an outlet somewhere that isn't just lacrosse or soccer or baseball. I think that's super important, right? And I think, being in a former baseball role, I think it's really easy to get down on yourself, right? Like you go over three in a game and you think you're the worst person ever. And then on the flip end of that, you go 4 for 4 with a couple doubles and you're like, man, I'm living the dream. This is great. But the older you get and the older the more wisdom I've kind of got as we do this longer is that you really do need to find your circle of care and then your circle of people outside of your sport. I think your teammates are always going to be your family, right? You're going to spend anywhere from 20 to 30 hours a week with, your teammates, right? They're always going to be there for you, but I do think it's super important to find your people and your group outside of what your sport is. So it's kind of funny that you asked that. So 2 years ago, I just kind of me and my wife were living in Columbus, Ohio. I'm working a bunch, and I was like, you know what, babe? Like, I need to find something else just to get me out of the facility for a little bit. I tried golf. I was terrible at golf. Realized that that probably wasn't going to be the move moving forward. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try something completely different, and I started jujitsu. It is exactly like golf, only a lot more painful because I'm terrible at jujitsu too. All I ever do is just get tapped and smoked when I go in there. But man, it is so much fun just to go in there, roll around a little bit. You meet some new people that I probably would have never talked to in my life, but it's been awesome for me just to kind of get in there and just get a release every Tuesday, Thursday morning, just go roll around a little bit, get smoked, get tapped out, and then go back to work and just be super recharged.
No, I love that answer. And I think everybody has their thing, right? Especially when you're working with elite athletes. I don't know. There's a chip on your shoulder and there's a pressure to be elite yourself. That's for sure. So I love the answer. Love the question as well. Talk to me about this. I think as we go in to 2026, it's crazy to think about we're halfway through now. What are you looking to accomplish in this profession? Like, what is your ultimate goal? What legacy do you want to leave?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. I think ultimately for me, selfishly, I would love to run a department one day and be the director of strength and conditioning, but uh, 3 years ago, I would have said that's the ultimate goal, and there would have been nothing that would have stopped me. And, I'm still working towards that today. But I think for me, what I have learned, and this really comes from my boss, Heather Mason, who's been an unbelievable mentor for me. She's really taught me to just to be where my feet are at right now and work towards just being the best strength coach I can for soccer and lacrosse at this moment in time. So, that's been something that, I've worked now for the last 4 years with these teams. And I think, since I've taken that mindset almost 2 years ago, that's really when this profession has started to be super fun, right? Like, I'm not working towards trying to make that next step in my career day after day. I'm trying to be the best person for these athletes that I possibly can. And it's kind of funny is that that's when those opportunities actually start to arise. And, you know, uh, Anthony Schlegel here, one of the strength coaches that works primarily with football, had a great talk, right? And he was like, if you are not promotable, you are not retainable. And I think that's a really, really good way to look at things, right? You need to be where you're at. You need to be working towards something. You need to be wanting to be promoted. But if you're not being promotable, you are not retainable in this profession. So that is something that I've really worked towards, especially in the last year, but really we're going to work towards for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on top of that. We talk about all the time in my world. You're either a necessity or you're a luxury. And at the end of the day, I think we have a lot of people that it's nice to have them. It's nice to have them in the weight room. It's nice to have them on campus. Nice to have them at your job. But like, are you really someone that day in and day out knocks on the door, rings the bell, and gets stuff done? And I love that expression about the promotable as well. I'm going to go to Jackie here for some questions. I know we usually do David Mitchell's mailbag. He is not here today. Jackie, I'm going to kick it over to you.
All right, another question I like to always ask people is if, because I'm a big reader, is if they have a favorite book that they've read or maybe like documentary or quote that they like to go by if they don't have a book.
No, that's a great question. So, uh, I think a lot of the time I am a podcast person. My wife would probably hate this because anytime we get on a drive, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play a podcast. But going to specifically a book, this is something that one of my bosses here, Tyler Carpenter, gave me. I think it's an unbelievable book, whether you're in business, whether you are in coaching. But Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. He is a former FBI negotiator. And pretty much the premise of the entire book is that when you are negotiating in the FBI, you can't ever split the difference, but you do need to find what makes the other individual tick. What are they looking for? And then how can you help them achieve what they want to achieve while still fully achieving what you want to achieve? So I think Chris Voss, anything he puts out there, podcasts are awesome as well, but specifically from a book, Never Split the Difference is probably one of the top for sure.
I've
Love
seen
that.
that cover a bunch of times. Like I know a lot of people who have that book, so I'll have to add it to my list.
Unbelievable read. Super quick, super fun, awesome.
Love that. How about the one I ask every week? The preface of our podcast, the biggest thing that we do is the keep going moment. Someone that would have took down a normal human being, knocked you to your knees, and you got back up. What's your keep going moment, dude?
Man, I will say I have been extremely blessed with people around me. My entire career, my entire life, my family is unbelievable. My wife is great. And I've always worked for some really, really unbelievable people. I think there's two moments that I think I look towards in my career that have kind of set up the trajectory and both kind of set their trajectory in um, different ways. So, number one was it was really hard to separate myself from playing college athletics to coaching college athletics. Um, you know, it's never easy separating your identity. Uh, Especially when you're a college athlete. I think we can all agree that being a college athlete, that is a massive piece of who you are. But leaving college athletics to coaching was a really difficult decision for me, and it was something that even after I made the decision a year or two later, I was like, did I make the right decision? But uh, it ultimately worked out really, really well. Um, and then after that, I wanted to stay at the University of Tennessee. That was something that I thought I was going to do for the rest of my career. My GAN, there just wasn't a position ultimately there for me to stay. And that was something that was really hard because I always knew in this profession and coaching that I was going to have to travel and I was going to have to leave at some point. But you know, it came a little quicker than I thought it was going to happen. So we thought we were going to be able to get a deal done. We thought there might have been a position open, but it just didn't end up happening that way. So I think ultimately, I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason in your career and in your life. And I could not be any more excited that it didn't work out for me because I wasn't ready for that position just yet. And I needed a mentor and I needed somebody that was going to help push me to the next level of my career. And coming to Ohio State was exactly that. I think when a lot of people they look at Ohio State again, they see that it is the mecca of college athletics. And we coach kids really, really hard here, and there is a lot of really high expectations. But what I don't think a lot of people see is the expectation and the coaching that the coaches are going to get on the back end here. And so, this really comes from the culture of leadership that we have here, specifically in strength conditioning with Coach Marotti and Coach Mason, Coach Carpenter, Coach Quibido. Those four for as hard as we're going to coach athletes, they are going to coach us as coaches. Every single day is an absolute dogfight. And you need to be up for it and be ready for it. But I'll tell you, if you can handle it and you can work towards it and you just continue just to chip days, it will pay off dividends and you will be a better coach here and ultimately a better practitioner for your athletes.
No, I love that too, man. Just it's awesome to hear it from a young guy like yourself because there's gonna be a lot of kids and a lot of coaches and parents that listen to this and they look back and go, all right, one, if I'm a younger cat Like, am I working this hard to get where I'm trying to get to? Or two, if I'm an adult, am I being complacent? Am I being challenged? Am I going to have the composure to move forward and get that promotion, get that opportunity? I don't know. I think a lot of people want to wear that logo on the chest that you have, man. And there's a target on your back. There is, truthfully, to get to where you got to. So I think that's awesome. I'll ask one more and I'll kick it over to Jackie. Kind of an outlandish one, so I apologize. Brutus obviously is the mascot for Ohio State. If you had to pick a pay-per-view event, Brutus against another mascot, who would you pick? Who would bring a crowd out? Talk to me about that.
That is an unbelievable question. Well, first of all, Brutus is like, I think he's like half human, right? So like, I think any animal would probably be out of the question. I
Just
don't
based
know.
on making it fair. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I'd probably want to make it semi-fair. But I will say the funnest game, and this is not me because I was at Tennessee for a while, but the funnest football game I was at in my Ohio State career here so far, was their game against the University of Tennessee, 2 years ago, first round of the playoffs, going into that brand new college football playoff
Yep.
environment. Unbelievable crowd. I think the University of Tennessee, they tried to come in here. It was a different level of excitement in that building. So I think Smokey versus Brutus would be an unbelievable pay-per-view. I think the people down in Knoxville would find a way to make that a must-watch for sure. And then I think the people here in Columbus would for sure tune in.
Well, I think you're realizing, Andrew, how my brain works after that question there. But yeah, man, 180 plus episodes in, we got to get creative with some of that stuff. And shout out Brutus and Smokey. What a matchup. Jackie, take us home, girl.
I always ask this question as well, since you were a baseball player, but favorite athlete of all time that's not a baseball player.
Ooh, ooh, that's a great question. So I'm actually also a massive hockey fan. I think hockey players are probably some of the best athletes you're ever going to see in
We
your
would
life.
agree. We would agree.
Yeah, like those guys and gals, like I think anytime you can put on skates and do what they're doing, I think is a different level of competition and different level of athlete. So, also a massive Tampa Bay Lightning fan. So I gotta say, probably my favorite player, that is not a baseball player, would probably be Steven Stamkos. Heartbroken that he had to leave the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I think the ultimate captain, the ultimate warrior, dude that just had a bunch of setbacks in his career and just kept on coming forward. I just think back to like that 2020 year. He comes back into the playoffs with a massive goal there in the COVID bubble. Hadn't played for like 4 months, and he just comes in for one shift, scores a goal. Ultimately, the Lightning go on to win a Stanley Cup. Like that was an unbelievable moment. But Steven Stamkos for sure has got to be my favorite non-baseball player.
I love it. I literally had this conversation last night with my friend. We were talking about how, because I'm a big basketball fan, and I think the playoffs this year have been a little better than the past, but we were talking about just how the Stanley Cup is just the best one to watch. The Stanley Cup playoffs are unbeatable because those guys are just so tough. It's awesome.
Can we get the Blackhawks back in the playoffs? I just, it's hard talking about the NHL. It actually makes me sad because we had such a run like when I was in high school and college. And now I look and like the Blackhawks, the UC is empty. We don't got it rocking. PD would appreciate me bringing this up. How many times we wore the hard hats into the UC to go watch the Blackhawks and just, they're just not good right now. So hopefully next time we have this conversation, they'll be better. But I can't control that, guys, obviously. Before I wrap us up today, Andrew, did we miss anything, man? Take this time, take 30 seconds. Did we miss anything?
No, I think we covered a lot today, and I'm super thankful that you guys had me on. I think the biggest thing that, if there was one closing message I can kind of give to, I think specifically athletes out there is, just continue to grind and continue to work hard. Good things happen to individuals that prepare at a really high level. Preparation doesn't always mean that you're going to have the greatest result, but preparation will mean that you will be okay with the result that you have ultimately. I think that's the biggest thing you're going to learn. You're not always going to go 3 for 3 with three doubles, but if you have a massive preparation, you're going to leave that game going, you know what, I just couldn't give any more, and that's okay today. So if there's one thing I can say, that's what I'd like to leave it on.
Now, Andrew Garcia, man, this was a masterclass on how to get to the top, but also have grace and understanding while you're getting there. I think that's an awesome message to send home with our community today. Once again, the Ohio State in the building, a coach, a mentor, an accountability partner, and one time for the one time, fire up Scots and for the locals in the Dominican Republic. It's been an amazing time on the podcast with you this morning. Guys, that's all I got. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for everybody in the US of A that has represented our country. And without a doubt, keep going, everybody. Appreciate the time. Thanks, guys.
So yeah.